Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing this Chiyoda automatic watch winder. I paid £52 for this watch winder and I bought it from Amazon. So firstly let's look at the box that the watch winder comes in. The Chiyoda automatic watch winder comes in this black cardboard outer box, and as you can see it has the Chiyoda brand logo on the front of the box in gold and also on the lid. So good sturdy cardboard box. Inside the cardboard box, I'm pleased to report that the automatic watch winder comes inside this fabric protective bag, and I think that's a nice touch, and Chiyoda deserve full credit for not cutting any corners with regards to their packaging. The fabric bag protects the high gloss lacquered finish to the solid wood of the automatic watch winder from being scuffed or scratched when the watch is shipped in transit. And inside the cardboard box one also gets these two foam cutout panels which are a snug fit around the watch winder, as you can see. So nice touch, and it really does work very well because it's a tight fit inside that cardboard box. There's no play, so it doesn't slide about in transit, and the fabric bag also protects the high gloss lacquered finish. So I really like that. I think it's a credit to Chiyoda that they have done very good quality packaging. Now one also gets this owner's user manual, so the leaflet goes into detail with diagrams how to operate the various functions of the watch winder, so very useful read if you're unfamiliar with automatic watch winders. It also details the two power source options for the watch winder. One can either run the watch winder on 240 volts mains. It comes with a 1.5 meter long power lead, which is very good, and a UK 3-pin plug, as one would expect. Now, if you don't want to run the watch winder on mains power, you can also power it by two AA batteries in the base of the automatic watch winder. And the owner's instruction states that if you run it on 2AA batteries, the watch winder will run for typically between 10 and 15 days. So nice to have those two options. For example, if you're travelling and you want to take the watch winder with you, but you don't want to use the UK 3-pin plug because you're abroad, you can power it on batteries as an alternative. So very comprehensive and detailed, and really good explanation of how to use the watch winder. One also gets this business card for Chiyoda with their slogan, Living a Beautiful Life. It has two QR codes, which if you have a smartphone you can scan the QR code and it will upload the specification and the operating instructions of the watch winder. And on the reverse it details the 18-month warranty. So that's something I want to give credit to Chiyoda for, the 18-month warranty. It's often the case that watch winders simply don't have a warranty, or alternatively the warranty is only 12 months. So to back up their product by 18 months of warranty I think is very good. They're obviously confident in the reliability of it. Lastly, one also gets this polishing cloth for polishing your watch, or alternatively the watch winder itself. So nicely packaged, and also good to get the 18-month warranty. I like that. So with regards to the specification of the watch winder, I'll talk you through it. It's made from solid wood, and the solid wood box is varnished to a high gloss lacquered finish, and I have to give credit to Chiyoda for the outstanding finishing throughout. It really is very aesthetically pleasing when one looks at it from any facet. It really is a very beautifully executed automatic watch winder. Nicely brass plated hardware, the hinges are nicely done. Brass plated plate with the two controllers and the power plug. So 1.5 meter power lead, which is long enough to reach a wall socket, and I really like it. The lid is hinged, and as you can see it's glazed with acrylic, and acrylic's actually a very good choice because it has the effect of sound deadening. It quietens down the sound of the motor when it's running, and also the hinges in the interior are nicely brass plated, so it's nice to get metal hardware hinges. The interior of the watch box is fully felt lined with a very luxurious looking fabric, and the watch itself sits on a padded pillow cushion, as you can see. It's a disc of sponge foam, and it's very nicely upholstered with that fabric to a very high standard. The stitching is flawless, there's no defects or loose stitches whatsoever. On the underside, it also has this elasticated piece of fabric, and the purpose of that is to protect if you have a watch on a leather strap, for example, with a buckle, so that the buckle or the strap doesn't become polished or scuffed when it's rubbing against the watch winder when it's being wound. So nice touch to have that elasticated fabric panel to protect watch buckles from being polished or scuffed. Now, I really like it. It's quite firm, so I'm confident that it would fit even up to a 45mm piece. My Black Bay that you're looking at here is a 41mm for reference, and it fits the disc of padded foam very well. As you can see, it's quite a good fit. And bearing in mind, I've sized it for my 8-inch wrist, so very large size. I think that this watch winder will comfortably accommodate collectors that have sized their bracelets and straps for anything between a 6 to an 8-inch wrist inclusive. So it's a friction fit into the winder, as you can see. It has 2 slots for the bracelet or strap. So one simply presses the disc of foam into it, and it's a very firm fit. It's very secure. One has the feeling that the watch isn't going to move about too much. I really like it. I think it's very well executed. So one simply closes down the lid, and then on the reverse one has the 2 controllers to start the winding of the watch. As you can see, I've just switched it on and it begins to wind the watch clockwise. Now, one thing I really like about this Chiyoda watch winder in particular is the amount of clearance above the watch and around the watch. It's often the case with watch winders, there's very minimal clearance between the watch and the actual acrylic glazing, the window. And the problem is that with a dive watch, for example, if it's say 42mm plus, if it's a large piece, the bezel of a dive watch will often catch the underside of the acrylic window and scuff it. And obviously that's very upsetting for the collector, because you then have a permanently scuffed window in your watch winder. But what I really like about this is, as you can see, plenty of clearance around the watch and also on the underside of that acrylic window. There's no chance of this watch making contact with it. So I'm absolutely confident that this would handle very large pieces such as a 42mm Pelagos or a 45mm Planet Ocean, for example, with no difficulty whatsoever. For reference, this is a 41mm Black Bay, and as you can see, there's no problem with it whatsoever. And it's rotating clockwise, it's not sliding around, it's a good snug fit on that padded pillow cushion. So I'll talk you through the 2 controllers and what they do. On the reverse, we have this brass plate and 2 controllers. Now, very firm clicks on the controllers. I really like that about them, that they've got good positive indexing on the different positions. The left-hand controller is the TPD controller, and TPD stands for turns per day. So there are 4 TPD settings, 1, 2, 3, 4. The right-hand controller controls the direction of the watch winder. So there are 3 direction options: clockwise, anti-clockwise, or bi-directional. It alternates between clockwise then anti-clockwise on a cycle. So nice to have those options. So I'll talk you through the TPD settings, 1 to 4. The turns per day settings are: setting 1 is 1,850 turns per day, setting 2 is 1,250, setting 3 is 950, and lastly setting 4 is 650 turns per day. So what does that mean? Well, I'll give you an example of the amount of turns per day needed to wind your watch. If you have a Rolex Submariner date, for example, with a caliber 3135, that has a maximum power reserve of 48 hours. Now, there's no need to overwind it with 1,850 turns per day. That would be excessive. To wind that movement, the caliber 3135, one would typically use 650 turns per day. So, for example, you would put this watch winder on at 8 o'clock in the evening and leave it running for 12 hours overnight until 8 o'clock in the morning. And during that 12-hour period, the watch winder would wind the watch 650 turns per day, or turns per night. And that 650 TPD is enough to wind that movement. Now, it may not wind the watch to the full 48-hour maximum power reserve, but however, it will wind it enough to keep it running for a full 24-hour day when it's off the wrist. And that really is the purpose of a watch winder. one shouldn't look at a watch winder as an alternative to wearing the watch daily. It really is the case that the watch winder will top up the power reserve, not to its maximum, but it will keep the automatic movement running while it's off the wrist. So if you have a collection of watches, really this is for the watch that's off the wrist, so you can alternate between one on the wrist and one off the wrist. So 650 turns per day will wind your Rolex Submariner, not to the full 48 hours maximum power reserve, but enough for it to run for 24 hours when it's off your wrist. So I really like that, the fact that you have the options of 1,850 turns per day down to 650. Now with regards to the direction, as I've discussed, there are three options: clockwise, anti-clockwise or bi-directional. You can have it rotating clockwise then anti-clockwise, alternating. And I'll explain what the purpose of that is. It's sometimes the case that automatic movements do not have a bi-directional rotor. The rotor will rotate clockwise or anti-clockwise on the automatic movement, but however the movement will only wind in one direction, for example clockwise only. So when the rotor spins anti-clockwise, it doesn't have any positive effect in terms of winding the mainspring. So one needs to make sure that that automatic movement rotor is spinning clockwise, and therefore the movement will then wind. Now it's sometimes the case, for example with a Rolex, the 3135 as I've discussed, that is a bi-directional movement. It doesn't matter if the rotor on a Rolex movement spins clockwise or anti-clockwise, it winds bi-directionally. So I would say to you, if you are not sure which direction your movement runs in, for example if the rotor winds it clockwise or whether it winds it bi-directionally, to be safe, put the direction controller into the bi-directional setting so it rotates both clockwise and anti-clockwise, and then it really doesn't matter. For example, if your watch winds clockwise only or if it winds bi-directionally, the automatic winder will cover it because it will alternate between the two. So for example, I'm currently winding my Black Bay, and as you can see I have it on position number 4, which is 650 TPD, turns per day, and I've also got it set on clockwise because I know that the movement will wind in a clockwise direction. I could also have it on the bi-directional setting because it will also wind anti-clockwise. So that's the operation and the explanation of the TPD, the turns per day. So overall, what do I think of the automatic watch winder? Well, I think it's excellent. It's £52 and I think the quality is absolutely outstanding. I think it's finished to a very high standard, and to be honest with you, I think this would still be good value if it were £100 rather than £52. I really think that it is very well finished, and the build quality, the quality control is all exceptional. Now lastly, I just want to show you something else that I really like about it. On the underside it has 4 rubber feet, and that's very practical because it insulates the watch winder from vibration. For example, it's not going to shake about or vibrate when on a tabletop or a desktop, but the rubber feet prevent it scuffing or scratching a varnished table or desk, and I think that's very good because it's often the case that automatic watch winders don't have any rubber feet, and therefore the wooden box will scuff high polished or varnished finished desks. And as you can see, there's the plastic panel that one removes to fit the AA batteries if you want to run it on battery power rather than mains power. So I really like that aspect, that they haven't cut any corners. Now another thing I want to talk about is the motor. Now when it comes to watch winders, generally speaking, the rule is one gets what one pays for. So the more expensive the watch winder, the better the quality. But there's something I want you to be mindful of whether you buy this watch winder or not. If you're searching online for watch winders, try to find one that is powered by a Mabushi motor. Now, this watch winder is made in China. Chiyoda make no secret of the fact of the origin that it's Chinese made, but however, it uses a Japanese made Mabushi motor. And Mabushi motors have a very good reputation for being reliable and also for being relatively quiet. Now they're not silent running. For example, if I open the lid, one can hear the motor, the Mabushi motor, when it's running, but closing the lid does reduce the noise of the motor. But Mabushi motors are generally the more quieter of the ones available, and they are definitely more reliable than some of the Chinese made motors. And I would say to you that it is worth paying the extra. don't go for the least expensive watch winder you can find. This is only £52 and I really think it's worth £100. But the thing that really attracted me to this watch winder specifically was that I saw it had a Mabushi motor and I knew it was made in Japan, and they are more reliable. They tend to have less faults, less returns, less breakdowns, less warranty claims than the Chinese made motors. And in the event that it does fail outside the 18-month warranty period, it is easy to buy a Mabushi motor online and replace it yourself. So one can keep the watch winder going long term, even when it's outside of the 18-month warranty period. So really that's all I have to say with regards to this Chiyoda automatic watch winder. I think it's an excellent buy. I think it's excellent quality, and I think at £52 it is excellent value. So I highly recommend it to you for your consideration. So I hope you've liked my review of the Chiyoda automatic watch winder. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.